Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Well, hello and welcome back to Women We Should Know. I am so delighted that you are joining us, that you are tuning in from iTunes or Spotify or checking this out on the website, because I have a truly special woman for you to meet today. For those of you who are new to this podcast, our focus, our passion and intention at Women We Should Know is to bring you the voices, the stories, the courage, the resilience, and the audacity of amazing women whose names you might not know, but you will be happy you do after you get to meet them here at Women We Should Know. To bring you points of inspiration and points of connection. Sometimes as women, particularly entrepreneurs, we can feel a bit lonely out there in the world. And being able to bring voices of women that speak to experiences that you know, it helps all of us to feel like we're not quite so alone. So without further ado, let me introduce you. Sara Burke has worked with over 1,000 startup brands. She is an entrepreneur and international content expert. Sara brings her experience in attaining industry diverse success to her clients around the world. As the owner of high-level content creation and the host of soon-to-be-released podcast, The New American Dream, which I will say I am very excited to tune into regularly, Sara loves to share her knowledge and give back to the communities her clients are invested in building. Now, that is a strictly female concept, isn't it? We have to admit, right? She has spent the last decade helping her clients to put their voice to paper. And all of this while teaching business owners around the world how to amplify their messaging and tell their stories in a way that changes the world and makes money. Everyone's afraid to say makes money. And let's face it, we're not going to have those big, bold, independent lives that all women want without doing that. So it's very exciting to have her on the show. Hello, Sara.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, I am delighted that you agreed to come on and be with us. There is so much I want to talk to you about, but I have this little tradition. Before we get started, I like to invite every guest to share something with our listeners that isn't in your bio that you might like them to know about you.
Oh, all right. I love that. That's a great way to just dig right into it. Here's something that I think I would love for your listeners to know. When I was growing up, I was very poor. We were in extreme poverty, and for my life as a young woman and going into adulthood, I really felt that I was poor no matter what. I would always be poor. That really resonated with me. And something happened as I became a mother, and I'll just share a quick story. I think this kind of sums it up very well. My daughter at the time was in kindergarten, and she said to me, Mom, there's someone in our class that's stealing food from the lunch boxes. And she said, I cannot believe this is happening. She said, we're going to make a team and we're going to try to spy and see who it is. Who would steal food? And I remembered in that moment, and as a child myself, stealing food because I was hungry and desperate and had to eat. And it struck me so right in the face hard that I had not shared my story. I was afraid to share my story, even with my own children, because I was carrying the weight of these labels and this stuff. And so something that's not really in my bio, but that I love for people to know is a lot of times we put ourselves in boxes and we kind of trap ourselves. And for me, recognizing that the things I had been through were my resilience story and that it was okay to talk about, totally changed my life. And I actually launched my business the following year.
That is brilliant. I love that you are sharing this. And I can relate. I grew up, sometimes dinner was a wish sandwich, which meant you had 2 pieces of bread and you wished there was something in between it, or you had 1 piece of bread and you wished there were 2 pieces of bread, or you actually would just wish you had 1 piece of bread. I know that story, but more importantly, I know women across the country who know that story, who are still embarrassed to speak about it.
Yes.
And as long it took me, I will confess, it took me longer than you to figure out that that was an important piece of freedom I could give myself and thereby share it with others.
Yeah, I love that. Is freedom. That is the perfect way to put it, because as women, we already are in so many self-inflicted boxes and some societal, inflicted boxes. But yeah, we get stuck. It's easy to be trapped in this mentality when the reality of it is, the backstory, the come up, whatever you want to call it, that's usually the best part, because it lands you somewhere where you have endless choice if you decide to take that route and see it.
That's right. So you started your business a year later. Which business did you start? Because I know you've started several over the years.
I have. Right out of high school, I thought I'm never, ever going to be poor again. I have to work for myself. Freedom was a big concept for me. I love that you said freedom. I started a cleaning business where we would do apartment turnovers. So that was really fun, but it was a lot of work, and I would have to go in and fill in for people that didn't show up. And I thought, I don't want to do this forever. So thankfully, I was able to sell that business with the contracts that went with it. And I learned a lot. I took those lessons with me, and I launched Empire Coaching. And it was all consulting, workshops for large corporations. We would go in and teach, C-level teams, B-level teams, how to properly eat a meal when they were out with clients, or, different etiquette training, communication training. But I had something in my mind that I was so against, and it was this. And maybe you can relate to this because you've been all around speaking and all this. Going into a room where the people were forced to be there, and didn't necessarily want to learn what I was teaching, especially because I was very young, and that was a little off-putting sometimes for people. I had a problem with that. It was very unsettling to me.
And how did you weave your way through that?
Well, I call it luck, but I think when you have your eyes open and you're kind of tuned in, my client, Julie, she calls this biz tuition. You're kind of open to potential of what might come your way. And I was thinking to myself, I'm really ready for a pivot. I'm really ready for a pivot. And every day just kind of making space for that. And I had a client come to me and said, I have a client who needs someone to help him finish his book. He's stuck. He needs a speechwriter. She said, do you do that? Is that something you do? And it turned out to be Brian Smith, the founder of UGG Boots, the original founder.
Oh, my goodness.
And that just kind of dropped in my lap. I said, I don't know. And I was really honest with him. I said, I love to write. Words are, my my first true love, and I've always written, but I've never taken on a client like this, and he was so fantastic. He just said, let's just roll with it and see where it goes, and that's what we did. And he sent a lot of clients my way, and it just continued that way. So now my business is about 85% content creation.
That's fabulous. And you said something in that story that is really important that I don't want to be missed. You just went in and were honest with him. So many times I see women trying to posture.
Yes.
And trying to figure out what is the right shirt, what is the right language, what is the right, and they agonize over how they are going to present themselves. And that agony continues because they have unsuccessful meeting after unsuccessful meeting. You're right, I can relate to that. My start came fairly similarly. I was put in a position to have a conversation with a man who I knew was very powerful. And I just said, I don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about, but it sounds interesting. I'd like to learn. And that was all he wanted, was someone who would be honest and interested.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think posturing is fear in action. It's all of that ball of emotions that I know every woman carries or has carried at some point. And learning that you don't own that, and that you're not responsible for the emotions in the room or the perceptions in the room, or like when we talk about clothing and stuff like that, a man would never consider those things or be subjected to, so posturing is definitely fear in action. And I love the honesty part, because it's like this: if you're willing to show up and speak your truth, there will be space for your truth to grow.
That's right. And you say you don't have to own that. And I have found that when we don't own that, when we don't take on the responsibility for how people see us or how the room perceives us, then it doesn't own us.
Oh my gosh.
And we have more space to be in our skin and more space to be in the room.
Yep. That is so wise. And yes, 1,000% true. I think I was in a women's workshop one time, and the woman I was in the front row, she used myself and the woman next to me as an example. She said, if she says something bad about you and you don't know that, it doesn't exist in your mind. So it's not real. But if you found out, you would feel all these emotions. So what that means is you are creating space for those things to exist. If you didn't, it wouldn't be real. And I've always, always remembered that. That's
brilliant. That's a brilliant way to summarize it. You start a cleaning company, get to sell that. Now you get to meet Mr. Ugg, and that launches into an expanding clientele. It sounds like the idyllic life, the life that, as women, we can be taught to romanticize the way we look at other people's lives. And I'm guessing there were some really hard spots.
Oh, yes. Well, as a woman in business,
I do.
That we do that. We do. We tell the pretty story. It's the quick and not so dirty, where we just kind of gloss over things. But yeah, I will tell you, there have been years of coming up in business by myself, learning as I go, pivoting, facing adversity, male clients who were incredibly inappropriate because I was a young woman in very male-dominated corporations, that kept me up at night, that made me wonder, why am I doing this? am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this my pride and my ego from
Right.
the very, very beginning saying,
Right.
this is your, burden, your path to, but having grown up the way I did, I don't tend to shy away from the difficult moments.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to learn something. I know I'm going to grow. So, and with my kids, I try to apply this too. It's okay to be uncomfortable sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just sit with it and see where it takes you. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely. It's not always been, the downhill. Wee. Right.
Exactly. And I always like to bring that out when I have wonderfully brilliant and successful women like yourself on the show, so that the listeners remember, oh, yes, they've had that day like yesterday was for me, or they
Yeah.
have had that month like last month was for me,
Yes.
and to be real with each other. But then on the other side of it, when we stick with ourselves, there's all this conversation about stick with it, but that's all outside of ourselves. I think of it as just sticking with ourselves. If we hang with ourselves and just let ourselves evolve, there is that upswing.
Yeah.
What was the moment when you realized that there was something inside of you that was going to let you always succeed, always take the next step up? And if you fell, you were going to always get up. Was
I
there
love
a
that
one
question.
moment?
hmm it wasn't in my business, but what I found when you're an entrepreneur, your business is your life. It
Yes.
encapsulates everything. It touches everything. About 9 years ago, I lost my mother, and when that happened, I remember taking a step back. It was very sudden. It was not a clean situation at all, and I remember taking a step back, thinking, "This is going to be brutal. This is going to destroy me." And about a week into the process of trying to figure out, what we were going to do with her items, possessions, and her body, because she had no will. It was a very ugly, brutal situation. And about a week in, I remember having this moment of clarity standing outside the hospital that I was fine. Like I was okay in the midst of the worst chaos I could have imagined at that time. And to me, that just kind of gave me the wind under my wings to say, no matter what, I'm good. I've got this. I know I've got this. And you need that to fall on, because women are, we take on the whole world. And then we're carrying all the weight. And when there's a day that we feel like we can't, or, it's too rough, the weight is too much, we don't have anyone to fall back on. We are the fallback person. So we need that kind of resilient attitude to say, I love that question. That was an amazing question, to be able to be okay,
Mm-hmm. There's an old African proverb that says women hold up half the sky. I'm not sure that we hold up only half.
I was going to say, that sounds skewed to me. I think a man wrote it.
But even if it were only half, that's a lot. And we have to have that place inside of ourselves that men are given from the time they enter primary school.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for
That's so
sharing that
true.
story. Thank you for sharing that story. I know, working with clients, that you really helped them discover their big why. And in order to help anyone discover their big why, because I do this with my own clientele,
Mm-hmm.
we have to know what ours is.
Yes.
And so this is a two-part question. What is your big why, and how has that evolved as you go forward? Because I don't see my big why as being exactly the same as it was when I was 20. And yet there is that fine connective thread
Mm-hmm.
through all of my years and decades.
I think it is true. If you take time to reflect, you can see that you've had the same internal motivator. Of course, it grows and it shifts with you as you grow. But for me, the why has always been why. That constant asking and trying to be in tune with the moments. Why am I doing this? Where is it going to take me? Is that where I want to be? Why do I want to be there? And for me, my biggest motivator has been why. Why is my why? It's like, why do we do this? Why are we like this? Why do we, why do we do the things we do? Why are we driven into entrepreneurship, or why are we driven into motherhood? Why, it's that constant undercurrent of me needing to understand. And I think it comes from childhood and parents, not showing up the way that I expected them to, and me constantly wondering why. And that has stayed with me. And now in business, one of the things that I do with my clients really often is when they're struggling with something, a decision, I'll tell them, write the 2 options or 3 options, whatever you have on paper, and then take it back one step. Why do you want this outcome, or why do you want this outcome? Because a lot of times what we find as women especially, what's motivating us is something that we would never act on, or it's not our voice. It's someone else's voice in our head telling us which direction to take. So I don't know if that's sensical, but why is my driving why.
I think that's brilliant. I love that. And it legitimizes so much. It's okay not to have specificity. It's okay to let why be your continuum. I love that. As you work with women, you've mentioned women several times. As you work with women, what do you find is the most significant thing that you have been consistently able to give to them that has helped them through whatever it is in that moment?
Wow, that is a good question. I think the biggest thing that I see my female clients especially walking away with is confidence. This is the epitome of what can be the up or downfall for women, I think. Confidence. So a lot of times when you say to someone, this is an amazing story, everybody should hear this, you need to tell this, you need to share this is very important, it legitimizes their existence or what they've been through, their experiences. And a lot of times, I mean, these successful, very established women, I will say, very routine women are lacking this piece. And I find it to be shocking, but I understand, and I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yes, I just found mine about 3:00 yesterday afternoon.
I love that. And you know what? It comes and goes.
It does.
It comes and goes. Because there are days, and I have this experience all the time. There are days where, I am on top of the world and things are going so well, and I feel that, there's nothing that I cannot do. And there are days that I get up and I think, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know, how I'm going to get through this, how I'm going to juggle this many things. So, it's fleeting. And I think it's a great thing as women if we can remind each other also of that.
Absolutely. And also, it's okay. I see women do this. And there are studies on it that women do this and men don't. Women will look at a new project and they will make a list in their mind of everything they don't know. And they won't go for it. A man will look at a new project, and according to Harvard Business Review studies, if he knows 40% of what is necessary, he will go in there with absolute confidence that he can do it.
See, isn't this crazy? I mean,
I know. So it's always wonderful I find, to help women understand what you just said. It's not there every day.
Yeah.
But it's not gone every day.
Right.
It's not absent every day. Just go through this day, make it through this day. It'll come back. It's in there.
I think it's so important that we are okay when things are not necessarily okay, you know? And I tell myself all the time, I can figure this out. That's just my little mantra I'm running in my head, because what you're saying is so true. And that study, I have never heard that, but it doesn't surprise me, because I have to remind myself, even though I can sit here and tell you I am a capable, successful, intelligent woman, I have to remind myself that I can figure these things out, you know? And I think men do have that kind of solidarity within themselves from a very young age, because, well, that could be a whole show.
Or 3
series. Yeah, yes, but I think it's very compelling to think about. And yeah, I am in my head all the time saying, I can figure this out. That's my reminder.
I love that you say that, because that is the missing piece for so many women, is instead of looking at what you do and don't know today, to ride that confidence of, I can figure it out. I don't need to know everything today.
That's right.
Because the reality is, whatever it is I'm going to need to know in 10 years to do whatever I'm doing in 10 years, it is impossible for me to know that now.
Right.
That's the fun.
Yes.
That's the fun, is I get to keep learning as I journey to wherever it is I am in 10 years.
I love that. That's so true. And something in business that I try to do perspective shifting when things don't feel great. And one of the things I love to do is, instead of having a to-do list, so work I have to do, because I'm a big list person. I write everything down everywhere. I drive my whole family crazy with my little pads and paper everywhere. But it's fun things. That's my list. It's fun things. And are they always fun? No. Can I get way more enjoyment out of them if I'm approaching it in a way, that this is going to be a learning experience, that this is exciting, that this represents growth, rather than I have to do this, you know. So I kind of like to do perspective shifting also.
That's brilliant. That is a great approach. I'm going to borrow that.
Yes, let me know how it's going.
I will, because I have to-do lists all the time, and I can get into that being a human doing instead of a human being in about 2.5 seconds.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so true. I'm going to steal that. I haven't heard that.
As you are moving forward and you're having all this impact on small businesses around the world, individuals around the world, men and women, and I know you have I don't know many women in business who don't have a particular interest in supporting other women. What is the big vision? Maybe you've been carrying it for a week, maybe for a long time. That one big piece that is still out in front of you, that you know you'll get there, but that's the pièce de résistance of what you want to accomplish on behalf of not just yourself, but something larger, whether it be womankind or whether it be the world or whether it be your community.
So, one, you have such a great vocabulary. I love it. I'm such a word person, so I just want to tell you that.
Thank you.
Also, so my podcast launch is step one of maybe 1,000 steps that is leading me to building a platform that is designed for small businesses, both male and female, an online community of sorts. And what I've found in working with clients over these, so many years is that there's entrepreneur.com, there's Forbes, there's a lot of places for Elon Musk to give his 3 morning tips, or for Richard Branson to talk about what he eats for breakfast and stuff like that. But there's nothing that's really celebrating on that level where stories can exist, small business struggles, triumphs, insecurities, the real stories of business. And I feel like that's what I want to build. And the podcast is focused on lifting up and highlighting small business stories and really telling the successes and the nitty-gritty pieces of it. But also, I would like to build this platform where that can be hosted online and people can find that and connect with this community and feel supported. So that's my big vision, is a smallbusinessentrepreneur.com.
I think that's brilliant. We're always going to have big businesses, but the degree to which we've lost small businesses, and maybe this is just my age speaking, but the degree to which we've lost small businesses, it feels to me like we've lost a lot of heart in the business world and in the marketplace.
Yes.
And I think this is wonderful that you're bringing this back in the way that you are.
Thank you. I think what you're saying is true. We and here's the other thing: when entrepreneurship kind of blew up, what we have found is that there are a lot of people in it for the money, which I have no problem with. Money is grand, and I love making money. We're not supposed to say that, but a lot of it went from, business-centric, client-centric to money-centric. It's very much, and so, the heart is missing, and I think we need those stories that connects us, that enlivens us, and gives us permission to move forward and build what we're trying to build.
Well, bravo for you for taking. Now, I noticed that you said this is step 1 or phase 1.
Yes.
I'm kind of that way. I see those little things. Can we have just a tiny hint of where this will go into phase 2?
So, of course, my hope is that the podcast is an amplifier for my network, and that I really can start connecting with even more small businesses. I have had the pleasure of working with so many small business owners, and that, to me, the podcast can amplify that and really even spread it out more. And then step 2 is going to be me building partnerships, because I'm not, if I build this on the scale I want to, I'll never do it alone, or I would be insane.
Right.
So step 2 is definitely going to be a heavy focus on partnerships.
Yeah.
I haven't shared that with anyone, so this is new, fresh for your listeners.
Ooh, hot off the presses, women.
There you go.
Hot off the presses, something to watch for. The new American Dream podcast.
Yes.
Watch for it. And check the program notes, because for those of you who've been here and been with me a long time, and for those of you who are new, I always put our guests' URL, contact information, and anything else they would like to share with you in the program notes with the video of the podcast. The new American Dream podcast, and we will keep you apprised of it in the program notes.
Thank you, Leslie. And I want to just say real quick about the name. The New American Dream focuses on all of the change. We are in a place now of just exponential change in the business ecosystem, no matter what industry you're in. And so I think that's a wonderful thing if we can lean into it, because we get to build things how we want, and technology is supporting that more than ever. So that's my little plug on the name, the New American Dream. It's about building exactly what you want and having the capacity to do that.
And it doesn't matter whether you look at Harvard Business Review or Forbes or Business and Finance, they are all saying that women are leading this movement into this new world that we're all collectively creating. I know that many of the listeners of WWSK are going to want to track what you're doing and hear your guests and hear your innovations that you're going to be bringing to the show. I'm very excited. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for everyone who will be impacted by it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What one thing have I not asked you that you are just itching to share?
Can I share two things? Is there a rule here?
You can have, we'll stretch it out. You can have two, you can have three. We'll probably have to cut it off after three.
All right. So the first thing that I want to share is this. I just want to say, obviously I'm running a content business, and I want to encourage the women that are listening to step over the hump that is blocking them from taking the step that they want to take next, no matter what the step is, no matter who's told you shouldn't or can't. I just want to encourage them to settle in, lean into their story, and just take that first step, because I just think once you do that, it becomes easier to take the next step, and it becomes easier to take the next step. And if I'm saying this and this is resonating with anybody that's listening at all, reach out to me. I help tell stories, so that's my shameless plug. But I do it for a great reason, because my heart is in this work for the reason that I wasn't sharing my own story, and I really want to encourage and empower women to do that. So take that first step. This is me compelling you. Just give it a go, and if you need support, I'm here.
That's beautiful. And I will say, for all of you out there, women, Sara's been a great support to me. She is lovely and gifted and smart and talented. So reach out to her.
Thank you.
And what's your second thing you would like to share?
The second thing that I would like to share is, if you are a woman in business and you are in a male-dominated industry, I would encourage you to adopt a couple of the things that we talked about today. I have found when I'm going into a place where I know I'm going to be the minority in terms of sex, I definitely am walking around saying, I can figure this out the entire time. And of course, nobody sees that, but that is what is empowering me to feel comfortable in a place where maybe women don't feel comfortable. So get yourself a mantra, adopt a mantra. That's what I would love to share. I can figure this out seems to be incredibly powerful.
We're getting ready to wrap up, but I want to ask what I consider very important question for all women in business, whether you're in corporate, because you are probably in the smaller numbers if you are female, or whether you're an entrepreneur. What do you do for yourself in terms of community that is supportive of you as a professional? Because particularly entrepreneurs, we don't have the water cooler to meet at. I don't even know if they have water coolers anymore, but you get my point. We don't have a ready-made in-house business community. What do you do for yourself to connect? How do you connect with other women to keep yourself inspired, to keep yourself uplifted, to have someone you can speak to on the day when you're not at the top of your game?
I'm going to be very transparent with you on this. I am not good at this. I have to work at this. Not sure why that is. I haven't been able to figure it out. I sometimes lean away instead of leaning in. And I think many women can probably resonate with that. But I'm part of 2 women's groups here locally in Columbus. And then I have girlfriends that are entrepreneurs also, and we have accountability check-ins. And this is where we, once a week, just check in with each other. And we're very, we hold each other to that line. So if it's Wednesday and the check-in was Monday and nobody's done it, we call each other out. So that's kind of what I do. And for me personally, because sometimes I think the part about getting through those rough days is reconnecting with yourself and grounding, maybe not always connecting with other people. I love to get out and run. I love to meditate. I learned transcendental meditation about 4 years ago. I love that. So yeah, those are kind of the things that I do. A couple accountability partners, which is really important, or mentorship, also so important. I'm not working with a mentor right now, but this is the first time in probably 12 years that I haven't been, and I'm sure that space will fill now that I've said it out loud.
Yes, it always does.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And accountability partners are great. It doesn't have to be a big formal thing, but all of us as women, we need that support because we are collaboratively oriented, and we have a high empathy quotient. We need that. So thank you for sharing your tips.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? I just to your point of saying it doesn't have to be this big grandiose thing. That is so true. I think we build up these ideas in our mind of what it's supposed to look like. And I will tell you, on a Monday morning at 10 a.m., I am in my robe, probably my 3rd cup of coffee, and I'm working at my kitchen table. I'm not in this glass-walled, 40th story like this. It looks different for everyone. And women, I think, have to learn to be okay with things not looking a certain way.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Sara, for coming on. You have been so enjoyable. And I just know that our listeners have gained important pieces of wisdom, important pieces of insight, and feel shored up by the way you come to a conversation with such authentic transparency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. That's a wonderful compliment. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up another episode of Women We Should Know. Today, we have been speaking with the brilliant Sara Burke, international content expert, speaker, author, mother, dog mom. That's an important role. Kayaker, garden enthusiast, and bourbon connoisseur. We didn't get to talk about bourbon today, so that just means we'll have to have her back another time. That's right. That's right. Thank you for joining us. It is always a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak with the women who come on as guests and to be able to share them with all of you who tune in to the podcast every week. And I am so grateful for each of you. And we will continue to put all intention and focus into bringing you individuals who do share golden nuggets that enhance your life, your personal life, your emotional life, your physical life, and your professional life. And as you go forward with the day, I'd just like to remind you, you are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.